everyone. This is another vlog post by Katrina McHyde on Tim McHyde's channel called On the Narrow Path. And I'm going to share with you today about testimonies. Now that sounds like a huge big word, and actually most people don't even know what it means anymore because we use it in such a spiritual sense that it's totally lost its meaning. I'm going to share with you what testimony is and how it can help you overcome Satan. How it can help you overcome in your life all the attitudes and all the stuff that you're going through with strife and anger and frustration. So it's a very powerful tool, testimonies, and we don't know how to wield it well. So I would like to, as simply as possible, share with you how to do it. And there's just so much to say about it that I'm just going to take it slow and share as much as I can and try to keep it simple for you to be able to actually add into your life, because that is my whole point. I want you to see that there's access of things that you can use in your everyday life. And I give my own everyday life of my testimony in these vlogs to show you how to add in spiritual tools to be able to get better and better and get better results than you've been getting. Because I know what it's like to not get results and be frustrated and feel alone and wonder what's not working and why you can't control yourself and why, you're not growing, or you feel like you're not growing, okay? And getting depressed and hopeless and all those things that come with that, okay? So I'm trying to help you out, and so stick with me. This might be a little longer, but it's going to be worth it. Okay, so I had, yesterday I told of a testimony right on the spot of coffee going all over the countertop, and we didn't know it at the time, but it went underneath into the cabinetry as well. And when I opened it up and had that surprise in the middle of being already busy trying to do things, I had a great reaction. I was really impressed. I'm really growing. It was like, okay, here it is. Well, I don't know how it's going to get fixed. So you saw that in episode 46, which was last episode that I did. And I had someone who has watched it make a comment, which I'm going to jump off of today into these ideas of testimonies. It's actually come up over and over again for me to talk about this, and I've been thinking about it for a very long time, sharing it with you, but I've been trying to get my thoughts together because it's such a deep topic. Another traveler is the name of the person using on YouTube, says that it's so easy to be reactive and to not be cognizant of, or to even recognize our attitudes, actions, and reactions 100% of the time. Not until we've affected someone else, that is. And that's so true. We don't know how to grab a hold of what's happening to us and make sense of it before we react. And that's what I'm trying to teach by slowing down and breathing. When something pushes your buttons, I'm teaching you how to slow down and not react when those buttons are being pushed in a way that is just a natural response, like a knee-jerk response, and instead make a choice of how to act. And so you take a few breaths and go, okay, let me see what's really happening here. This might be hurting, or I might be frustrated. I get that, but God's here. I'm safe. And I can love God with my whole heart, might, and soul, and love my neighbor as myself for the love of God in the middle of this situation. That is the whole goal. That's it. That's all of it. And why? Because God loved us first. He created us and showed his abundant love towards us and everything that he gives to us. And also, even though with our own free will, we rejected that love, that happened for all mankind. We've all done that. He loved us even more to give us a way back to see how much more he loves us through sending his firstborn, even while we were yet sinners, even while we were whenever we are enemies of him. And the way that we are an enemy of God, by the way, is when we don't love him with our whole heart, might, and soul. We're unappreciative. And we don't love our neighbor as ourself, showing him that we love God, because that's the way you do according to 1 John chapter 3 and 4, which I've shared before. So I first want to share what a testimony is, okay? Because it's hard for you to use something that you really don't know. And many times we throw around these terms because it's the spiritual thing to do, but we really don't understand them. And so I want to bring some solidity to some ideas that we talk about and make it something that is usable again. Okay, so a testimony, this is just a dictionary definition, has two parts to it that are really important. There's actually 3 different definitions with it, but I'm going to focus on 2. Is a formal written or spoken statement, especially one given in a court of law. So anything that we write or we talk about our experiences of what's happening in our life or what we believe is happening is a recording of something in the heavenly courts. Okay? Even your thoughts when you're talking to yourself has a certain way of recording itself, and the way that you talk about what's happening in your head or spoken out is always testifying. It's a testimony of something. And you want to make sure it's testifying of the right thing, okay? Because if it's testifying of the wrong things, then it's going to lead to despair and hopelessness and aloneness, and it's going to lead to a lot of things that maybe you feel, lack of joy, happiness, not knowing your calling. All that can happen. You can get stuffed up with all of that, and anger and frustration. All of that comes from not understanding how to see things properly and use what's happening in a positive way in order to help you overcome, okay? And I'm going to get into how all this happens a little bit better, but I'm giving you an idea of how powerful a testimony is and how powerful it is what you think you see and what you believe or even know you see. It doesn't matter, any of the above, is so important on how you decide to perceive that and to turn that into. The second definition of testimony is evidence or proof of something. So it's kind of like what I was talking about, evidence or proof of something. Why do we need evidence and proof of something, and where is the court of law? It's in the heavenly of heavenlies, right? So we know, according to Revelation chapter 12, I'm taking things out of context because I don't have enough time to read full context. As you know, I'm trying to keep this short, so it's easier to deal with little bits. But we learn that day and night, in verse 10, chapter 12, verse 10 of Revelation, that day and night our accuser, which is Satan, accuses us day and night in the heavenlies before God. This has been happening for a very long time. Now, this verse is talking about end times events, but it's actually showing us that we are accused day and night, which happens before end times events. It happens all the time. It's happened from the beginning, back down to Adam and Eve. So we have not only that, but we see that also in Job and in other places, right? So, but the second verse, verse 11, is interesting, really important, because it shows us how we overcome Satan. There's many things that show us in Scripture how to overcome Satan, and here's an important one. It says they conquered him. So the people in the future, in the end times events, which I think we're in the end times events, but I'll say future events because Satan isn't completely fallen down from heavenlies. It's going to happen in the last days. They conquered him by the blood of the Lamb and by the word of their testimony. That's how he was conquered. And also, they had to not love their lives in the face of death. So whether they died or not, in the face of death, they loved God and loved his way more than even their life. But the important part that I want to show here is the blood of the Lamb and the word of your testimony. So the word of your testimony, what you are evidencing and proofing of something, you're trying to give evidence and proof of in the heavenlies, is that the blood of the Lamb is as powerful as God says it is, as the Messiah intended it to be. That's the click. That's the click we're looking for. Now, how does that look in everyday life? Right? That's the question. And I've got so many notes here, and I'm trying to decide what to share and not to share because there's just so many great things to share, but I'm going to try to keep this simple. I'm going to tell you of a testimony of something that happened to me just recently, the last week, what we've really been going through. And I'm going to tell you a story. And then I'm going to show you the different ways I could testify of what I think the facts were and of what I believe happened, or what I could believe could happen. So you can see that you can make many stories up. Be careful the type of story you make up, because that is your testimony. And you don't have to share it with other people, although when you do, it gives you an opportunity to share with a faith of what you believe it means. Because whatever story you make up, and people hate me when I say this because it seems so like, oh, I don't know what to do with it. But the truth is whatever story you make up or whatever you believe is true, you are, even though you think you know it, you are knowing it by faith. Because other people who are experiencing exactly the same thing can see completely different that same experience and come up with totally different conclusion, and that is true. Things get messy, right? So in the court of law, you've got all these witnesses which give their testimonies, and everyone has a different story attached to what happened, and even what happened is changed, right? So that isn't a problem in the heavenly of heavenlies if we are agreeing that the blood of the Lamb for us and for other people, which is loving your neighbor as yourself for the love of God, is applying the blood, is more powerful than Satan, than humans, than any experience you have. For example, I will take me for an example to help you out, okay? So here is what happened. I'm going to only give you part of the story. Last week, I was sharing how we are going through immigration crisis because of what happened to Zachary in the hospital in February. He was in the hospital for a full month in February, which is how these On the Narrow Path podcasts actually started. Our insurance was canceled for him. He has no insurance. And our immigration is coming up. Actually, it's due on Tuesday. That's the last day. And everything is coming up last minute. We're doing our part. We're not scared. We're okay with staying here or leaving. It's up to Father if we stay here and leave. So we don't have any fear around it. And if we have to leave last, no problem. No problem. Father's got us. But we have all of that going on. And then Tim found out last minute with Caleb that both of them, their passports were going to expire in 10 months. That means that they would only be able to have residency here in Germany for 10 months and then have to do it all over again. So they had to make a quick decision. Tim made a quick decision that the next day, as soon as they figured this out, to run over 2 hours to Munich and get new passports ordered, and for us to pray those in before this coming Tuesday. And supposedly it takes 2 to 3 weeks for them to come in. So it's like living by faith here. And we had that happening, and I had some physical ailments coming on. Zachary got sick, so he started having seizures. Our oldest son, who's 24, he has seizures and autism. I think many of you know that already. And he, in the middle of the night, so we're all tired working with this, he in the middle of the night, one night, threw up twice, and it was bad. I mean, it was not just near him, it was like all over, like the walls, all over him. It was a mess. So in the middle of the night, I have to jump out of bed and ask for help. And so all of us are tired after working with all of these situations, and working with my job, and Tim working with what he has to keep things, the business going, and Caleb looking for a new job last minute before immigration is saying he has to have a job, have a reason to be here in Germany, a job or going to school or an apprenticeship by Tuesday with papers showing he has it to have a reason to be here in Germany, or he's goodbye. He's hasta la vista, baby. So we have a lot of things going at the same time. We've been very calm about it, but we've had to stay on task. So having someone get sick during this time is like piling it on, right? So we're having to clean all the sheets and clean him in the middle of the night and put him back to bed and go back to bed ourselves. And then it happens again. Same night, a little while longer, Zachary throws up again. Now let me share with you what happens when things like that happen, and at the same time, not only was that happening, I was waking up like every 10 minutes to a half hour over and over again with an unrelated thing, but I had cramping in my stomach and was going to the bathroom every 10 to 30 minutes already, so I wasn't sleeping a whole lot. So Zachary had his own thing going on, and I had my thing going on, and it was like we were all tired and everything was happening so fast, and it was more than I could handle, and I was feeling very weak myself, but everybody else was weak as well. When I get in those situations, what I do is I start praying. I start praying and saying, Father, you are my strength. You promise that I have everything in order to take care of whatever you put in front of me. This is definitely more than I can handle. I'm going to go slow, and I know you are going to show up and strengthen me. And this really hurts bad. I am not denying it, Dad. And this is really hard and kind of scary, because that's how Zachary ended up in the hospital in the first place, was throwing up and aspirating on some of that. But I don't have to live in fear. I can walk in faith, knowing that you love Zachary even more, and you're giving us everything to be able to take care of him, and he's safe and we're safe, and you're going to help us to be able to have enough strength to get Zachary down and okay, and be able to get back to sleep and rest as much as we need to, and you provide all good things, and you're going to help us through it. And I repeat it over and over again and say how good God is, and I force myself to always push into God's goodness and focus that He is with me. He'll never leave me or forsake me. He will comfort me, and I need the comfort, and I keep going on in my head, and I do not leave myself room for any complaining. I do not leave myself room for being mad at other people for not doing it the way that I think I need it done. The way that my husband helps out, sometimes it helps out being a little more messy than helpful, which is normal, right? I mean, when people have a different way of doing things and they think their way is better, which happens, then sometimes they are better and sometimes they're not as helpful. But we're all intentionally trying to do it well. And doing the best that we can under the circumstances of being tired and just, having a lot going on. So as you can see off of my testimony, what I am doing is I am sharing with you that even with all this stuff happening, we are blessed. Father's with us. The blood of the Lamb says that my son will recover from his sick bed. It says that I will recover from my illness, because the blood of the Lamb, it says in 1 Peter 2 and Isaiah 53 that by his stripes we were healed. It's already done, and we are delivered. It's already done. What do we need deliverance from? From spiritual attacks. Now, if you want to add into your story and decide that there's spiritual attacks happening, which in my case, I truly believe that's part of the testimony here. I think that a lot of things have been flustered up really bad to try to get us down. And if you can get us down and get us frustrated and fighting one another and believing that we're fighting against flesh and blood, according to Ephesians 6, we do not fight against flesh and blood, but against powers and principalities and rulers in high places in the heavenlies. Okay, So when you start fighting one another in a family, or fighting immigration officers, or fighting your spouse, or your children, or your neighbor, or your enemy, or anything flesh and blood, then you're gonna lose every time, because that's not where the fight is. They're just being used in a pawn game, just as you are. And you are used in a pawn game if you do not understand that by your words of what you say and what you choose to believe off of the experiences you have makes the difference. That is what makes the difference. So you can believe that there is no spiritual attack if you want, but even at that, you are still required to love your neighbors yourself for the love of God, because the love of God is with you all the time. So you can do it that way if you want, or you can say, okay, I had a major spiritual attack, and it could be true or not true. You can't prove it. I get that, okay? But from my point of view, we actually had a major spiritual attack. I'll tell you why. Because this is a pattern that happens, that when Zachary is sick in some way or down in some way, mommy is too. There's some kind of attachment to that because it happens regularly. So that's usually a spiritual sign. And I had some flare-ups of some areas, like I had injured some ribs when I was 19. I was 20. I was 19. I was almost 20. And they had healed up many years ago. And then in the same area, a couple years ago, I re-injured the same area, right? When I had a bad back on top of it. It's like it piles on. And then during this whole time, which it shouldn't happen, but all of a sudden, these ribs that have been healed by the Messiah decide to start hurting, and as if I had re-injured them and separated them another time. When you have an area that continually gets injured in the same place over and over again, that is spiritual. You can ask many people that work in ministry of deliverance ministry, that work with healing and deliverance. That is a pure sign. So, I mean, I'm not making it up. That's spiritual. So trying to get us out of here and to get us off of being able to serve and minister others, and to get us into a place maybe that we'll start fighting, especially because if he can get us to start fighting the wrong things, then he can get us off balance. That's what Satan wants to do. So that's why it's important to hold on to the blood of the Lamb for everyone. So we plead the blood of the Lamb on each other and breathe. Okay, we're all doing the best we can, and Father is with us, and he's going to strengthen us. And even if people make mistakes, it's okay. We plead the blood for them. And if we make mistakes, it's okay. We plead the blood for ourselves. It's okay if we're weak, because in our weakness is his strength. It's called the blood. People that don't even know God, people in immigration that don't even know God, plead the blood. Why? Because Christ died for the sins of the whole world, even our enemies. So I get to testify of that. That makes the freedom for you. So if your testimony, now see, that's how I'm choosing to testify of what's happened in our life just recently. Okay. Now, I could testify, if I wanted to, in a different way about the situation. This stinks. Life is picking on me, and Satan, he is just a jerk, and he's trying to kill us off, and he is. And I'm fighting this battle, and it's so rough and hard, and I can't believe I'm stuck in this position, and we might not make it, and I'm worried that we might not make it on immigration. We'll get kicked out of Germany. We shouldn't be. That's the devil kicking us out, and I'm going to be mad and upset, and I'm going to be mad at you. And don't you understand that these type of things are stressful? Now, why are you adding on more things for me to do? Why do you expect even more from me? Right? That's what we do with each other. That's where we get, and we think that we have a justification for our attitudes. Right? So that's what the testimony I was sharing about the YouTube person listening to my last YouTube was sharing, it's so easy to justify going ahead and treating people bad. So if I have my testimony wrong, then it hypes up anger, it hypes up fear, it hypes up that I'm alone in this and God expects me to fight and I feel alone and it's overwhelming and it's too powerful for me. All of that stuff only makes it more true. You will live by the faith that you have, what you have faith in. So if you have faith and it's so terrible and so awful and I won't get through this or I'll barely make it and I'm being picked on and people are picking on me and life is picking on me and I'm a second-class citizen and I always get the worst and everything the baddest worst happens to me and then it piles on even worse and you chronically get there and then you say, praise the Lord, he is good. Double-minded. Putting in your testimony, God is so good, he's with me, and these things are weaker than he is in his love, and he's going to show up in power. And I don't have to have all the answers because he does, and in his wisdom, he's going to give it to me. Okay? So I hope that really helps. I hope that helps to bring it down. Also, I want to share with you, because I've had someone share, well, Katrina, I'm not like you. I mean, you're telling your stuff to the whole world and I'm not like you. I can't share testimonies with everybody. I'm not asking you to share testimonies with everybody. I'm asking you to have your testimonies running in your head and in your prayer life of God's goodness. So God, Father, thank you that you're always with me, that there isn't a place that you promised never to leave me, so you're always with me. Thank you, God, that in the midst of this, you are my answers and you'll help me figure out the answers. And even if things fall apart, something even better is coming. Thank you, God, that not only are you all powerful and all loving, and you'll help me to come up with how to deal with this in a loving way, but that my body is strengthened by you and my spirit is strengthened by you with your power, and that you will continue, even though I'm tired, you're going to help me push through that tiredness with your power and strength to do things right, even if I'm tired or scared or sick, and you're healing me right now on the spot. All of these things you can add in, and that is your testimony in the courts. That's your testimony. And when you focus on that, then the accuser is going, quit doing that. You're giving me a black eye because you're going off of God's goodness, and I'm trying to show how terrible you are and how mean you're being to other people because of your attitudes, and how unworthy you are, and how they don't really appreciate you, God. They only want things from you. And you're showing in the midst of the hard times that actually that's not true, and it's having to make him shut up. And the Messiah is saying, you get it, because I am your advocate, and my blood has made the advocate that you are free indeed, that you are innocent, that the situation is under control by the power of the Lamb, of his blood. You see? All right. I hope this has been an encouragement to you. And I'd love to get feedback from you on this. I hope it's been clear. So give us some feedback. Email us from escapeallthesethings.com or leave comments right here. Feel free to subscribe to the channel and also share the channel. If you think that this is encouraging to you and it would be encouraging to others, share it. We're making free content now to be able to share, because we've had a lot of people ask for free content because they love what we're sharing and it's helped them so much. They want to share with their family and friends. So that's the way you can do it. And you can push on the little bell if you want right next to the subscribe button, and that will help you to be able to know exactly when we put up new content. Another tip I'm going to give you, and I know this is running long, is that long vlog post that I put like this for anybody, actually you can take in sections. So if you only have 5 minutes of time here and there, you can actually take this whole thing in sections. The way that you do it is go ahead and listen to it, and when you're done, stop listening to it. Then when you go back to your YouTube channel, if you're logged into your YouTube channel, you can click on, what is it? actually. It's at the bottom. Library. You click on library, you put your finger on library, and then it will have a place that says history. If you push on history, you'll see in the history which YouTube videos you've been watching. And if you push on my face or whatever vlog post or whatever you want to look at, it will actually start back up 5 seconds earlier from the place that you ended listening to it. By itself, it already remembers it. So don't feel like these longer posts are something that you can't get to. You can get to it, and you can come back anytime you want and get a few more minutes of it over and over again. Hopefully that gives you freedom. I learned that technique, and I know actually I'm learning as I go along, and many times people don't know how to use technology, and I'm learning too, but these type of things excite me because it gives me freedom, because sometimes I listen to 2-hour, 3-hour, 5-hour YouTube videos by 5 minutes here and 10 minutes there. There is space to be able to get fed and encouraged along the way. So I'm trying to help for you to be able to see that that you can get things so that way you can be encouraged and strengthened throughout the day in your own fights and your own testimonies being written and spoken right now that will be there for eternity. Be careful what you decide is it God is good and he showed up, dun, 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 or is it that Satan overpowered you or tried to overpower you and you were so terrible and you did it so bad and you're so guilty and so therefore you deserve it? Yeah, that's the lower testimony. All right. Love you all. I encourage you all. I bless you all. And I know God is with you. And keep in the fight. Don't give up. You can do it. All right. Take care.